Mom, this is Hex.
We've got a promise ring. We're gonna stay together at least for this amount of time.
This amount of time. I'm staked 7 years, average.
I've got a ladder.
I got a ladder. Mom, I got to tell you something. I'm seeing Hedron right now too.
On the side. That's my side.
Mijo, what are you doing? Hex is being so good to you. What are you doing?
Yeah, I guess sometimes you gotta get a little strange.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like, and then don't tell Hedron this, but I'm seeing Icosa as well.
It's rough. It's rough.
For everybody who has a Hex stake, you are entitled to mint Hedron every single day. And the amount of Hedron that you can mint is dependent on the number of B shares that you have.
Holders don't want to just hold, right? Holding is like, because you always have the option to sell. And then like staking is just the obvious choice.
There are minimum stake lengths, but there are no maximum stake lengths.
There is a minimum, not a maximum, right? People still ask all the time in Telegram, you know this, they ask all the time, like, hey, I want to stake for a year, but it's only letting me stake 30 days. It's like, no, that's your minimum.
The best way to think about it is a place to park your Hedron to earn yield. And when you do that, and you stake your Hedron, you earn this other coin called Icosa. Now that coin Icosa is also able to be staked in a separate pool, the Icosa pool. And when you stake your Icosa, you can earn Hedron and Icosa.
Okay, so you can stake and then stake and then stake and just yield upon yield upon yield.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
So the genius part of it is the inflation is going to be completely controlled by the demand.
So that would naturally lead to the question, why wouldn't I do this?
There's no cons, really. Like, this is just an expansion pack of sorts for Hex, right? It expands the available feature set that you have as a Hex staker. But some people have no interest in borrowing, right? Or being able to move stakes, they don't care. So those people will still make, older stakes on go.hex.com. And those do miss out on about half the features, but they can still mint the Hedron token.
We can plug in Hex stakes into everything now.
B shares and wrapped NFTs. Alex brought it to the fucking planet.
Making an HSI stake using Hedron. So just so people know, it's like taking your Hex and you put it in a little jar and you stake it. And then you can turn that into an NFT, and trade it and sell it if you want. And you can also borrow. You can pre-mint all the Hedron you're going to get for the whole stake. You can have it now, but you got to make monthly payments to pay it off. If you don't pay those off, you lose your HSI and you take it away and it goes to the auction house.
So after 90 days of no payments, and each payment is 30 days, so 3 consecutive periods of no payments, your stake is able to be liquidated. And when it's liquidated, it's put on an auction market, and people are able to bid on that stake with Hedron.
And that is directly tied to the yield in the Icosa, Hedron, Watsa staking pools.
When bids get won, when actions are taking place, Hedron's getting burned and yield's getting earned.
And now with Icosa, you can take that NFT and you can trade it in for Icosa immediately. And then the Icosa contract is going to borrow against it and never pay it back. And then it goes to the auction house in 90 days.
The inflation rate of Icosa is purely tied to the amount of Hedron burning, the burning rate within the Hedron system.
Okay, so like, and the majority of those are front loaded at the very beginning of this. So I wonder if, because those when people
don't give away too much alpha, sir.
It all depends on the price of Icosa. Because if you can take Hex, put it in an HSI, and then trade it in for Icosa, and then get that Icosa and sell it for more money than it cost you in Hex.
Well, you would do that over and over and over again, because you would effectively be arbitraging the price of Icosa down and the price of Hex up.
So that's what's going to actually make the price of Icosa. It's going to be like stuck versus the price of Hex.
Icosa is following Hex to the T, right? Like it looks absolute. The chart looks beautiful.
You can overlay them.
It's going to have this weird, it's kind of like a feedback loop.
That's kind of like what's happening here. Is that's the ceiling.
All of this stuff is making Hex super, super rare. It's gonna be so scarce. It's gonna be so scarce. This is what made the most sense. Track it based on the B share. When you redeem your HSI for Icosa, the T share rate is calculated twice.
It's like a lot of people who are watching this are probably like, I don't understand anything what's happening, what you guys are talking about. But the reality is it's very simple to do, like individually, right? The complexities and how all they interact with each other.
Both Hedron and Icosa have ways in which, if they massively started outperforming Hex, would take Hex up with it just through code directly, not just through the fact that they're connected on a Uniswap pair.
That's the entire point. Like Hedron really doesn't exist without Hex. And if it's not at least contributing somewhat to the benefit of Hex's growth, then it's like I don't really want to do it.
I only do high leverage. Max bidding. Max leverage. Better believe it.
I want to let you guys know that I have bought more Hedron.
Yeah, everything we just talked about, with that ARB point, and whenever you sell that HSI or whenever somebody takes advantage of like being able to immediately profit through arbitration, it ends up with HSIs on the liquidation market, which then burns Hedron later on down the line.
And eliminates Hex from circulation as well.
Exactly. Yeah, so I got the long explanation.
It's just like, wait for it. There we go.
Boom, there it is. Yeah.
The source address, or SA, in the Hedron protocol is similar to the origin address, or OA, in the Hex protocol.
You should think of it however you think of the Hex OA. Probably of a similar nature to however you think of the OA.
Hedron is tied to Hex, and everything that is being done to Hedron really only soups it up. Like, we're talking about going from a Honda Civic Si to an Aston Martin.
I mean, generally speaking, if the Hex price pumps in relation to Hedron price, there's going to be a ton more Hedron that ends up getting burnt.
I expect a lot of burning and a lot of incentive to burn, which might have positive price implications.
There are so many ways you could play this.
I don't know. I think if you're doing it like $10 Hex, like you're probably looking at like just the arbitrage point alone, not predicting, you'd be looking at like 12-cent Hedron.
12 cents.
So yeah,
12
that's what the arbitrage point would be.
12-cent Hedron.
Currently.
12-cent Hedron. Oh!
That'd be
Bro,
great.
a penny will make people millionaires.
Yeah. Well, like here's the thing: like, how many people make it that long, right?
I gotta learn about Icosa a little bit more.
Oh, it's bullish, very bullish. If you've got a lot of Hedron, like I would assume a lot of Hexicans do, just kind of laying around because you mint it for free every day, you could put your Hedron to work, so that'll be pretty cool.
Cool.
Why am I okay with this? It makes my hex bags better. Hey, do you know what makes Hedron better? Icosa.
Working with computers, you hear about crypto and stuff like that, and got into it in like 2016-ish. Lost a ton of money. Went back in, lost a ton of money. Found Richard Hart. Stopped losing money.
Right.
You know, once you like listen to what he says, you know, a lot of the stuff he says makes sense, and you're like, oh, wow, I was doing some very stupid stuff. So that's one thing a lot of people don't know, is that you can only write a contract that's so big on the blockchain. If you write too big of a contract, it'll just reject it. You won't be able to commit it to chain. So there is no room in Hedron to put staking. Even if you wanted to do it, you couldn't do it. Like, in fact, Icosa alone is like 99.95% of the maximum contract size it can be. You know, it's it is there.
About to drop some hot alpha.
So I look for yield-bearing projects that can compound over time. So you look at something like Watsa, that's kind of like an automatic compounding feature, because as people get out, your share of the pool is going to increase.
Yes, ultra rare tradable NFTs that only go up in value over time, with real assets backing its value and growing daily. Yep. It's like continuously putting pressure on people who say they have diamond hands, and then as soon as somebody says I don't have diamond hands, it increases that pressure even more.
You know, I hope that's a more popular thing moving forward. Like, I don't know, just more like ways people are injecting value into NFTs to make them not just some undecentralized link to a picture.
But that price where the amount of Hedron you can get from a stake can actually go and buy you that same stake again, like if you just borrowed the Hedron from it. That's the point that people are talking about. When people are starting to borrow the Hedron, cash it into Hex, and then buy another Hex stake, what it's doing is leveraging up. And the reason it's so attractive is because, first of all, the rules are concrete. You know exactly how much you have to pay back in terms of Hedron, but also the interest that you pay on that borrow is probably one of the lowest interests you'll ever find in any lending platform.
Like, it's you and the contract. Like, you should understand how the contract works before you throw that kind of money at something.
So you have a contract built on top of Hex, right? Now that contract's been audited by both community and professionally. Put a lot of time into making sure it's secure, no admin keys, no counterparty risks. Kind of the same things or principles that Hex was built on. Really try to incorporate all of those into Hedron as well. But at the end of the day, you have the Hex contract and you have the Hedron contract on top, and that is more code. More code is just inherently more risky.
So at some point, an efficient market is just going to figure out that, if you have an audited contract, it might be worth the trade to have a larger attack surface, that you try and buy down the risk with audits in order to get, 3 times the interest. It's worth a try.
Give everybody a chance here. Hey, I'm not saying to go endorse it and throw it in people's laps and get your family members and your freaking grandmother involved in the next thing that comes out on Hex. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is give these guys a chance. Listen to them. Go and learn.